Hello and welcome. I'm Randy Bueller, now joined by Eric Froelich. Seems like I just saw you a couple days ago in a different booth, a couple time zones away in Indianapolis or something. How you doing?
I don't recall what you're referring to, but I'm doing okay.
There was this Grand Prix. No, it's all right. We are getting ready for match number 4 here at Standard Super League. It's time to figure out the rest of what's going on in Group A. So it'll be Lee Shi Tian versus Josh Utter-Leyton. It's either rally time or it's mentor time. You have a pick or have a read on how this matchup usually works out?
Yeah, Jeskai is favored over the rally deck. The cards like Dispel are quite tough to deal with.
Okay.
Having access to cards like Disdainful Stroke, Negate, whatever it may be that stop the rally after board are quite good. Mantis Rider is very tough for them to deal with. That being said, it's certainly a winnable matchup.
Okay. This group's in kind of an interesting spot where the two people that won last week got paired. That's Lee and Josh that we're about to watch. The two people that lost last week were also paired, which was Chris and Paul. So you could have, 2-0 pair. You will have guaranteed a 2-0, a pair of 1-1s, and an 0-2 at the end of this round. Question is whether it's going to be Lee Shi Tian or Josh Utter-Leyton on top of the standings. What that means, though, with the tiebreakers is that going into the last round, you can still have a 3-way tie at 2-1, and you can still have a 3-way tie at 1-2. So everything should still be live. Nobody can clinch. Nobody can get eliminated. I think it might depend on the pairings. It may be that Chris winning means the right person can win. Anyway, the group's close is what I'm trying to say. And one of these guys is going to be in first place and in great shape at 2-0.
Makes sense.
And your theory is it's going to be Josh.
Yeah,
or at least it's more likely to be Josh.
Correct. I think that the Jeskai deck is ahead in this matchup.
Now, while we're here, let's talk a little vintage while we're getting that match set up. If we can put up the play-in tournament announcement, I'd love to tell anybody who wasn't here during the pregame what we announced. During our pregame, we announced Vintage Super League is coming. Vintage Super League is now sponsored by Puka Trade, and Vintage Super League is going to kick off on November 24th with a play-in tournament featuring these 8 guys.
Dun 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 dun.
Well said. I would ask you who your horse is, but I know that I think I know what that answer is. I know there's a lot of guys here you've worked with over the years, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to have a horse when the race that they're competing in is vintage. My horse is Good Games more than anything else, but Gay is one of my closest friends. I'd love to see him get back in the Super League. I know that he's kind of a fan favorite, but there's a lot of great talent here. There's a reason why these players were selected. So either way, the league is going to be in good shape, but I hopefully just have.
Have you played much vintage since the latest B&R announcement came out?
I have not played a single game, no.
Oh, all right. It's interesting. People are definitely trying to make Thirst for Knowledge work, which is going to certainly be a storyline I'm sure we're going to follow. These guys will play for 3 weeks to figure out who's going to join Eric and I in the league, among others, obviously. And then we start up with the main regular season matches, be December 15th. We get our first crack at it. So
pretty exciting stuff.
I am excited. It's certainly something to look forward to. I know that in addition to Vintage Super League, we've also got the Power 9 challenges started happening on Magic Online. There's now a big monthly vintage tournament on Magic Online with decent prize support. I mean, well, I think it drew like 100 players last time. Maybe they'll actually revisit it. Maybe the prize support goes up now that it's a 100-person tournament rather than a 50-person tournament. But either way, it's nice to have that sort of monthly gathering. I certainly expect to play the next one. I think November 28th. It's like the Thanksgiving weekend. A couple days after Thanksgiving is the next one of those. So.
Yeah, hopefully they will see how many people showed up and decide that it is worth a little bit more in support, maybe. We'll see what ends up happening.
Yep. Now, coming up in our group, tell me about your matchup tonight. Have you looked ahead very much?
I'm playing against Cedric, I think.
You are playing against Cedric. That will be our finale match.
So this matchup I played as basically the only matchup I've tested for the Pro Tour. My team, I didn't contribute very much on this Pro Tour. I had a lot going on. My Skype froze for a second. Hopefully you can still hear me, but a lot going on and a lot of distractions between Hall of Fame and
getting
proposing,
engaged. Yes,
doing all
congratulations
sorts
on
of
that.
things. So
I think we
I
said that
wasn't
last week, but
yeah, I wasn't a real contributor, unfortunately, to my team, but Josh Utter-Leyton, Paul Cheon, Luis Cup Vargas, David Ochoa, and Matt Nast put in a lot of work. I ended up playing the mentor deck that essentially what Raptors playing in Super League, and so I played a lot of Jeskai against Green White Red Megamorph. Cedric had written his article basically the same day that Luis had arrived in Milwaukee, and so we played a lot of games where I was playing the Naya Megamorph deck, and he was playing, albeit a different Jeskai deck, but similar things going on, and so that's actually the one matchup that I did quite a bit of testing with. So yeah.
and you like your side of it, I guess.
I like. Well, I haven't played this version of Is It Oreos against that version of Naya Megamorph, but with the Mentor deck, they were reporting that it was losing quite badly to the Naya Megamorph deck. When I was playing it, the opposite was happening. I was getting beaten pretty bad by Jeskai after sideboard, even with all the rending volleys. But they do a great job of helping to shore up the matchup, and it's just pretty close. Like
All right.
all things in they're really the way that standard is right now is it's a high variance format, and that none of the matchups are as lopsided as you might think. You might have seen that with like an Eldrazi versus Jeskai deck, where you think Eldrazi is going to win a landslide, but no, that's not really how it works. It's just whoever draws better on turns 15 to 22 is going to be advantaged in a lot of these matchups, and so that's just kind of standard right now. We have a lot of long matches, and yeah, the late game matters a lot,
All
assuming there's
right.
no
Well,
draws in Mana Screw.
we will get back to our group afterwards, but for now, we got a couple players standing by ready to play some Magic. So let's get down to the action. Hello and welcome. We're ready to watch Josh Utter-Leyton with his mentor-fueled take on the Jeskai archetype against Lee Shi Tian in the four-color rally deck that he now wishes he had played at the Pro Tour. Both of these guys won last week. One of them is going to take commanding position in first place as the only 2-0 in Group A. You got a read on who you think it's going to be now that you see the hands, Eric?
Well, Lee Shi Tian's hand is a lot better than Raptor's. I mean, he's going to get 3 new cards here between his draw step and Magmatic Insight, but he doesn't have an answer for Jace right now, and as we've seen throughout Standard, that card takes over games very quickly.
Yeah, Lee Shi Tian does indeed have the turn 2 Jace.
So Raptor definitely looking for some kind of 1-mana removal spell. Fiery Impulse would be a nice one. I'm a little surprised he led on Dragon Master Outcast over Magmatic Insight on turn 1, just because you wouldn't mind finding a removal spell, and you certainly wouldn't mind finding a Jace that you could cast on turn 2.
Is he trying to save the Insight for until after he has Mentors in play?
Yeah, I mean, that is the decision that he has gone with, although it's interesting. I'm sure he's played the matchup more than I have, so maybe that makes sense, and maybe he's not overly worried about Jace getting things going here.
Does the chump attack, or I mean, sorry, the chump check, Lee Shi Tian passes. O2J steps in front of 1-1 Dragon Master Outcast.
No fear of Titan Strength or Sure Strike.
It's a little easier block once you have deck lists, I guess.
I mean, I don't know if he would play around the Sure Strike, but we'll see. Tandem Tactics.
All right, Lee is activating Jace. Now, what is he trying to set up from here?
He's just trying to set up a big graveyard to resolve Rally, or potentially just trying to get his value creatures into play. Let me check out Raptor's deck list. I don't know how many counters he had main.
And no rally so far for Lee. Does have a couple Lilianas, has a Kalastri Healer, has the Collected Company. It looks like the kind of... Go ahead.
Raptor has multiple copies of Dispel main, so it's kind of tough to rely on getting all your creatures into the graveyard and hope that Rally just resolves, because this deck has a lot of fuel to be able to keep the engines going. It has Magmatic Insights and Treasure Cruises, so that you're going to be drawing a lot of cards, and you have a lot of access to the cards that you want to see, and so the odds of having Dispel by the time you set up Rally are pretty good, and so it's possible that that Lee will know that and just try to set up, to have as much value in play as possible and maybe be able to catch Raptor off guard on a particular turn to resolve a rally to win the game.
All right, well, Raptor does play his Monastery Mentor on turn 3. Lee is activating Jace. He's already discarded the backup Liliana. Now he's got 2 backup Jaces. Draw step hasn't been particularly kind to him these last couple of turns. But you get a lot of draw phases with Jace in play.
That is factually accurate. Although the Monk Revolution may get out of hand quickly here. Next turn, Raptor has access to Monastery Mentor, Magmatic Insight, double Monk. And turn after, we could be facing Treasure Cruise, and who knows what he finds through all these draw phases.
All right. Lee Shi Tian puts Liliana onto the table. No sacrifice outlet, though, so no easy way to flip her.
Nope.
What did Josh draw?
To exert influence.
Oh, exert influence. Interesting. Not super relevant yet, but could be. Here is, as you predicted, the second Monastery Mentor and now the Magmatic Insight with Treasure Cruise queued up for next turn. This is kind of the dream when you put Monastery Mentors in your deck.
Yep, this is what you're looking for. We had a lot of lag on Raptor's hand cam, but there's going to be some different cards in there.
All right, 3/3 Mentor can, of course, attack. Or can it? It's 3/3.
This does not.
Doesn't Lee just snaps off a double block. Yeah, that doesn't work. The new cards include Monastery Mentor number 3 and a Jace.
Not really what you want to see. Nothing too exciting there, actually. I mean, no spells that he can even cast next turn to keep the Mentor train rolling.
Yeah, he can't even Treasure Cruise yet, right?
No, he's pretty far away from Treasure Cruise, actually. A fetch line would do it, but it would also require being more mana to concentrate.
Right.
Lee has just drawn brick after brick.
Pretty much.
This Collected Company, I assume he's going to main phase it because he knows it's going to resolve, and he has some good hits on his deck. I mean, nothing truly outstanding, but can kind of leverage his situation.
Nantuko Husk always feels like a hit.
Yes.
Nantuko Husk lets him flip Liliana, start bringing stuff back from the graveyard, potentially. Yeah, like you say, he's playing around Dispel, so here comes the Collected Company.
And he'll be able to flip Jace as well and potentially threaten to flashback Collected Company in future turns, but if Josh is able to get the spells online, the Monks and the Prowess are going to go crazy, but right now his hand is kind of just a mess.
Yeah. Grim Haruspex and Grim Haruspex are the hits off of Collected Company. Still no Nantuko Husk, though, so again, he's got everybody's just waiting for the missing piece. No ability to sacrifice creatures, which would trigger kind of everything. So flip Jace, right? But then
No, I'm not in love with flipping Jace because there are a lot of creatures that can threaten it, and your Jace is a little bit vulnerable. Like if you leave it unflipped, you can flip it, on your next turn and
end step or something.
Not necessarily risk it getting
block
attacked.
And flip it.
But with Josh's hand, he's not actually in a lot of. There's not a lot of risk because Raptor can't chain spells together right now. But if Raptor's hand were good, then he might be looking at all his creatures dying here.
Sure.
Of course, that could mean a ton of extra draws, a flip Lily, and perhaps still even in the position he wants. And there's Magmatic Insight off the top with no land.
Nice.
It's an unfortunate one.
Oh, right. No land. Potentially nice if he can find a land.
Interesting decision by Raptor last turn to pitch Island to the Magmatic Insight instead of, I believe he could have pitched Smoldering Marsh. I guess he had no access to black mana otherwise, but he is pinched on blue and now can't even bluff Dispel, so Lee can kind of just do what he wants and know that it's safe. So kind of a tough spot with Raptor's draw of Plains and Mountain.
What Lee wants to do is flashback Collected Company.
That's what I would want to do. And Nantuko Husk just keeps getting better.
True that. Let's see what he finds.
Oh, Lee's not playing 4 Nantuko Husks, or did he fix that this time?
Now, he submitted 3 Nantuko Husks.
Okay. Well, for those of you who are looking to play this deck at home, please don't do that.
Play the 4th Nantuko Husk.
If you're playing a Nantuko Husk deck, you should just play the number of Nantuko Husks they allow you to play. That's my opinion, at least. I mean, we discussed this a lot in the Grand Prix. You were referring to all of these various sacrifice decks as Nantuko Husk decks, and
I was.
You're not wrong. Like, these decks rely on Nantuko Husk, and the sacrifice engines are very important. And having access to as many as you can have, I would imagine you want significantly more than 4. Should there be other should Bloodthrone Vampire be in the format? I would assume you want more Nantuko Husks. So not playing the full 4, I think, is just well, I can't explain it. Let's put it that way. Right. It feels like not playing 4 Jaces in your Jeskai deck. It's just I don't know what you're doing, man.
Well, what Collective Company came up with was Sidisi's Faithful. Not quite Nantuko Husk, but it does allow him to sacrifice a creature. It does allow him to draw multiple cards off Grimm's Haruspex and flip the Liliana. Not bad.
Did he bounce Jace? Is that what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, he put the... Yeah, Raptor. So there's some flag on Josh's hand.
Raptor's last turn was so bad that, being able to do this, let alone the fact that you're drawing all these extra cards, is really fantastic.
And now Liliana can bring Sidisi's Faithful. Sidisi's Faithful comes back thanks to Liliana. Her -1 ability is sort of Jace the Mind Sculptor's -1 ability now. Bounce something. Oh, by the way, with Grim Haruspex, he draws 2 cards also.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
Now he's got a Sidisi's Faithful in hand, which can once again bounce something and draw 2 cards.
Oh, this game is all but over at this point.
The other card that Lee Shi Tian doesn't play, and I misspoke about this, is that the Grand Prix I was talking about, we were talking about Catacomb Sifter. And are you supposed to play Catacomb Sifter in these decks if you have green mana? And I had misremembered. I said it was Nassif that didn't have Catacomb Sifter. I meant Lee Shi Tian. Nassif did, in fact, have Catacomb Sifter.
It didn't make a lot of sense
his version
for
of the Rally deck.
Not. Right.
Yeah, Nassif had it and liked it a lot. Lee Shi Tian does not have Catacomb Sifter in his deck.
Right.
Another
it
decision
makes more
you
sense.
disagree with?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I would prefer it to cards like Calastra Healer, and instead of having that sub-theme and the allies, I don't think they're as strong as a card like Catacomb Sifter, which is excellent on its own, and also allows you to basically scry to set it up so that you can never lose once you start going. I mean, this deck does have the ability to fizzle a little bit. It's not necessary. It's not like a requirement, but
yep.
I mean, the card is one of the reasons why this deck it was so good for various people at the Pro Tour.
Let the record show the 27th card down in Lee Shi Tian's library was, in fact, his first Nantuko Husk. It's now joined his hand. Interestingly, he also has not, until now, found a Zulaport Cutthroat. So... Calastra Healer's been doing a little bit of work on Josh's life total, but without that Cutthroat, Josh is still alive.
Yeah, he's under no pressure, and he gets to draw basically as many cards as he wants. So the fact that it took him a long time to find the key pieces didn't matter in this particular game. There was nothing happening on Raptor's side. He was pinched on colors, he was pinched on lands when he needed them, and it just didn't happen.
Liliana brings back Sidisi's Faithful. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Now, in addition to the bounce...
I've heard it.
Okay. Never mind then. We won't talk about the 2 cards and the life drain now that the Cutthroat's in play.
So how's your evening?
Ask me in an hour. Let me see how I do against Paul Cheon. My whole week comes down to how do I do on Tuesday night. I don't get to play much Magic that actually counts for anything, so
fair enough.
Treasure these moments.
I mean, we can keep commentating on this game, but Lee Shi's hand, it keeps growing so rapidly, and the things that he's doing are just ending the game slower and slower.
He's going to win it without ever playing a Nantuko Husk, right? Just Kalastria Healer and Sidisi's Faithful comboing with Zulaport Cutthroat. All
Well,
right,
Raptor gets to
fine.
concede now. That's the highlight.
I believe Josh will concede to Nantuko Husk, and he does. So Lee Shi Tian takes game 1, and we go to the sideboards. I like it. Hal posts in the chat that he thinks he's drawing pretty close to dead, and I will therefore get to have a good week. What does sideboarding do to this matchup?
Sounds like classic homes. Well, there's dispels and duresses, which are a pretty nice way to fight against opposing like dispels and counter magic. What are these? Arison Clerics don't do anything, Cubs don't do anything, Valor Saints don't do anything. So we're looking at that counter magic. Raptor's in the same boat, really. He's looking for more counter magic. He's got a Dispel on the sideboard. He's got a bunch of Disdainful Strokes, which are pretty nice because they counter the key cards that let things get out of hand. They don't deal with the initial creature threats, which, you can lose to, but it's rare. But they counter Collect the Company and Rally, so Disdainful Stroke's actually a pretty good one in this matchup. Exert Influence is pretty terrible against Nantuko Husk decks. I mean, it could be a 5-mana removal spell for Nantuko Husk, but that's really not where you want to be. So those are pretty easy cuts. Ojutai's command is pretty weak. There are no creatures that you can trade up with. All the creatures cost 2 and 3, and the deck also doesn't really have any, like the Rally deck doesn't really have any removal spells, so you're not going to be bringing back your creatures basically ever. So those cards are kind of the weakest, and you're looking to have some more interaction, some more instants that can counter the big spells.
Wow, were those Anafenzas actually in the deck for Lee Shi Tian?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, they were briefly on the bottom half of his screen. I don't know if that was just a misclick, but
it's possible. They're not very exciting.
No, they're back in the sideboard now. I was just like, what am I seeing? All right, here we go. Game 2. Lee Shi Tian up a game, trying to take control of Group A. After next week's show, the top 2 players from each of these 3 groups advance to the playoffs, and then the single elimination playoffs will all take place on the 17th, 2 weeks from tonight. What do you see from these draws?
Raptor's hand is a combination of great and like pretty mediocre, and that his lands just don't cooperate very well. He would love to have several more lands in hand because his spells are quite good, and Magmatic Insight would be great to turn on. That being said, he has a Mentor, a Disdainful Stroke, and a Treasure Cruise, kind of exactly where he want to be, but he wants to draw a bunch of lands so that he can actually use his Insight and cast all his spells. Lee Shi's hand looks pretty close to perfect. I mean, Duress to clear the way, and just Cutthroats and Husk to kind of lead the way up until Collect the Company. He also needs more lands, though.
All right. Dueling comes into play tap lands.
Yeah, Raptor just draws like 4 or 5 lands in a row, despite the fact that these decks don't need anywhere near that many lands. He'll probably win this game pretty easily.
Has not drawn a land with his first turn.
Yeah. I mean, Dispel's a good card in the matchup, but he really needs multiple lands to kind of get going. That land here for Monastery Mentor would be pretty strong, though.
All right. Fiery Impulse takes care of Zulaport Cutthroat. And Josh whiffs on land number 3. Lee Shi Tian does not whiff on land number 3. Bloodstained Mire comes off the top of his deck on turn 3. Now he can go start duressing to see what he's up against. Yeah, that's what he's going to lead on duress.
Yeah, Duress into Cutthroat.
What do you take here?
You still don't know the last card in Josh's hand.
True.
His computer is very laggy.
True story. There is a 7th card. We don't know what it is.
Well,
what would you take from those 6?
I'm guessing Treasure Cruise. So it's the most impactful card, and you can't really take counters to do anything. You might just be able to win this game on the beatdown plan. Although Monastery Mentor does throw a wrench in that. The thing is, you can kind of present with this particular hand. You might be able to present enough of a board presence that Josh can never actually cast his counters. And so if he just has 3 dead cards in his hand, it's possible that's where you want to be. Plus, he's so pinched on mana that leaving mana up is not a given. That he'll be able to use these strokes and dispel. So, I would take
He seems to have come to the same conclusion. Does he in fact take the Treasure Cruise? He now knows about dispel, stroke. So he's not going to play Collected Company into those. Josh does draw untapped land, so Monastery Mentor comes down.
Well, if he can draw a land that makes green mana right now, it's comfort time.
He did not draw the Collected Company mana. So Husk is his play. Now, Josh has got the land for Magmatic Insight. His hand cam is lagging behind. He's able to make a monk, get a prowess trigger, and then still leave up his permission.
Yeah, it's really hard to know where this game is headed when there's so many Raptor cards that are unknown right now. Okay.
There you go.
Land and an Insight. Pretty medium, not the greatest hand. Obviously looking to find another Treasure Cruise.
Lee's going to go ahead and duress and see what's up with the new hand.
Yeah, he knows 3 of the cards. Yeah. But he also knows that all of them are hits for this duress, so...
Takes away the Magmatic Insight.
Interesting.
Makes sense.
Oh, it makes sense.
And now he's got a Liliana, which he can flip via an Intuko Husk whenever he decides he wants to.
Yeah, the fact that there's already a Mentor and a Monk on the other side of the table is nice for Raptor, because otherwise what Lee could do is just sacrifice his Cutthroat, flip Liliana, and actually just start plussing Liliana to get rid of all these counterspells. But because there's a reasonable clock on the other side of the table, it doesn't work quite the same way.
Well, Lee's going to attack. I think he would be delighted to trade. It's essentially 2 points of damage and a chump attack. But I mean, if he was planning to have the Husk eat the Cutthroat... Oh, 4 points of damage, of course. And I think he was planning to have the Husk eat the Cutthroat anyway. 5 points of damage with the Cutthroat. The Cutthroat trigger doesn't trigger on itself.
Right.
So he gets Liliana flipped. Could potentially just put the Cutthroat back into play, but you think plus is the answer here?
No, I actually would probably put the Cutthroat back into play, but...
He's going up. He's like, I'm never casting this Collected Company into that handful of permission, so I'm just going to start making you discard it.
If Josh is able to draw something like Fiery Impulse, he's able to just get completely back in this game, because he takes Liliana down after killing the zombie, has an additional Monk, and things kind of look pretty good for him. If you're able to play a spell this turn, he's just putting a lot of pressure on the Planeswalker.
But he drew a land.
He did draw a land.
As did Lee Shi Tian, but Lee can play his land, play his Nantuko Husk, and now Liliana's plus ability doesn't hurt him.
True.
My guess is that's how he plays this.
Yeah, not really any other option, honestly. He knows all of Raptor's hand. Raptor played the fetch land instead of the Sunken Hollow to thin out his deck.
Yeah, with no ability to trigger prowess on Monastery Mentor, Lee Shi Tian could just attack into it.
Although, again, it's a similar situation where if he's able to find a removal spell to take care of this Husk, he can put himself in at least a reasonable shape. Nope, he's not.
Well, yeah, Lee Shi Tian went down. I think knowing there was a Sunken Hollow that could be discarded, Lee Shi Tian figured, all right, I'll get the Zulaport Cutthroat.
Yeah, interesting to do that after combat, but there were no blocks.
Yeah, he's so happy if Josh blocks that you don't want to provide any disincentive.
Fair.
Now, returns. I didn't even realize was a second Cutthroat over there. Is this just lethal? It's got to be close.
Oh,
Josh is obliged to block Husk, or dies. I think how it works out. Right, certainly if a Husk gets through, Josh is dead. So he's obliged to go block on the Husks. I guess Josh does have one card we don't know about from the hand cam lag.
is that true, or did he play a Flooded Strand? I think he played Flooded Strand.
Oh, he played Flooded Strand. Yeah, so
I think this
no
is
cards we don't know about. This is Chump.
Well, it's trade, but
It's trade Chump. Okay.
He's taking 4, and now that this Husk can just
down to 6.
He can also just.
No, it's not quite lethal. He can get Josh to 1. No, can't. Yeah, can get Josh to 1, or can get Josh maybe only to 2. I think there's 2 ways to get Josh to 2. Anyway, it's all but lethal. Josh has seen enough. Josh's draw did not work out, and Lee Shi Tian with the quick 2-0 rally over Jeskai Mentor. Josh, Mentor and Permission didn't really work out as a combo. Lee kind of drew what he needed in both games. So,
yeah, Rowley's broken. No bad matchups.
Lee Shi Tian is 2-0 in this group now. Josh still very much alive. He's 1-1. I believe thoroughly in control of his own destiny going into the final week of the group stage. So thanks for hanging out with us, Eric.
Of course.
We are going to take a quick break. I'm going to go get ready to play. It'll be me versus Paul Cheon when we come back. We turn our attention to Group B, and Eric will be up in the finale. Good luck. Talk to you later. Stay tuned, guys.